Well, hello again. You're listening to VHC, Vibes, History, and Culture, a show where we explore the unknown and little known facts and gems about music and popular culture from a millennial lens. And on this episode, we are diving in a little deep here to the history and cultural impact of Charlotte's Shout Festival. Now, what is Charlotte Shout, you might ask? Well, it's a multi-week festival made to showcase Charlotte's creative community through art, music, and ideas. And in case for those who just missed the festival, it ended on April the 16th, but I was able to chat with Robert Krumbine, Chief Creative Officer and Senior Vice President of Charlotte Center City Partners, who's also the executive producer of the festival. And we talked about all things Charlotte Shout, the history, the music, the arts, the food, you name it. All that makes this festival a must-see during the start of spring in the Queen City.
Back in 2001, Charlotte had lost pretty much all of its major festivals, and that included an annual spring festival called Springfest. That was arts and music and food and so on. A fall festival that was called Jazz Charlotte, and also a New Year's Eve kind of an arts related festival known as First Night. It's an international brand that cities would pick up on and do. So I was hired by Center City Partners with the primary goal of creating a signature festival for the city. And Charlotte Shout was what came of that. We did a lot of work with a board of advisors that came from the community as well as some of the corporate community. We did focus groups and discussed a lot of this throughout the community, and this is what we determined is what we needed was something that would celebrate art, culture, and community all in one package. And so that was the genesis, and that's where we started. We unfortunately, the world took a turn in 2001 September, so things got slowed down a little bit there. But our goal was to do the first Shout in 2002. And the initial Charlotte Shout was actually a 5-week celebration where every weekend represented a different signature event. So we had, as an example, we had a jazz festival. One weekend was a jazz festival, and it was actually branded as the City Verve Jazz and Heritage Festival, with just amazing talent over the 3 days. We had a culinary arts experience, which we created with the help of our partner Compass Group, as well as Johnson & Wales. The Johnson & Wales campus was still in Charleston at the time, but that's what brought Johnson & Wales to Charlotte, just as a side note. And then we would have the other weekends were dedicated towards other things like open door, right? So all the cultural facilities were open on one Saturday, Sunday. You could go into the Mint Museum or any of the spaces that would typically require a ticket. You were able to go in. It was an open door. And so that was kind of the idea around Shout. So it was really the concept was sort of, let's market what we already have, but let's really market it on a much higher level. Let's attract people from certainly from around the surrounding states that could drive in easily. Let's just put a bigger spotlight on the cultural opportunities in Charlotte. That ran for well, it ran until the Great Recession kind of
Right.
took the wind out of our sails. So.
Right. And just thinking about that, the different diversity in what you're celebrating, like the culture, food, music, art, and all the family friendly activities.
Mhm.
Now, I guess, what does that look like up close, especially for those who've never attended a Charlotte Shout before? What does that look like everyday events that take place?
So, well, I would describe, first of all, I would say that, this iteration of Shout is truly different than what we originally created.
Okay.
This one came about because we had an opportunity to bring Shout back.
Right.
As the grand finale to the celebration of the 250th anniversary of the naming and the creation of the city of Charlotte. And so it's an entirely different city than it was back in the early 2000s, right? We have grown up. We are more diverse. We're more inclusive. We certainly all strive for a better place, and we seem to have found a little bit of a groove to work together better in that way. Our creative community has grown enormously over the period of time, and it is to our advantage to do what we can to keep that creative community here in Charlotte. And so Shout is really about supporting that aspect of our economic development in the city, while also celebrating our community as a whole, and making it something that everyone can enjoy. So you ask, what is it that somebody could experience? It's really something for everybody. We try very hard to allow the art to speak for itself, to bring the music that people would enjoy of all different genres, to have food that people can learn and enjoy and sample and learn about and see the aspects of that. And then our ideas portion is really about that dialogue that we can share. As I always like to say, as humans, we have things that we want to all talk about. There are things that we all are common, that have common threads, and like healthcare and good education and affordable housing and all. There's so many pieces of our lives as human beings that we should be sharing ideas. We should be sharing innovation. We should have dialogue amongst ourselves to not necessarily debate points, but to also just to learn about each other. And that's what Shout is about. Shout is a really different festival. Most people, when you say festival, they immediately go to that image in their mind of a street festival with tents lining the streets, and you start at one end of the block and you walk to the other end of the block, and you may turn around and walk back, and then one side of the street is this, the other side of the street is that. Maybe there's a stage with some music. That's a fairly typical street festival. This is definitely not a typical street festival.
Wow.
We use the entire urban landscape of Uptown Charlotte as the site, and so
Right.
we do everything we can to, first of all, make it accessible, not only from just transportation and moving and getting to the right place, but also it's all free. So the majority, there might be one or two events that a third party has come in on and they are charging a ticket, but for the most part there's enough that anybody could find something to do, enjoy, participate in, and that's at all ages, from the smallest child to the oldest adult.
Absolutely. And thinking about the name Charlotte Shop, does it have any kind of historical significance to it, and how did someone come up with it?
Absolutely, it does. Our native son, Romer Bearden, has an amazing collage that he did that is called Carolina Shout. It was it was a a window into the world of the House of Prayer for All People, where they actually have this moment, this very spiritual moment that they call shouting, and it involves music and singing, and it's just amazing thing that happens. And so we sort of played off of that idea, and that's where Charlotte Shout name came from. And as I said earlier, we did focus groups. We ran these names by different folks just to see how they would respond. And this is the one that stuck, and it's still around, so it's good. It must have worked.
We also had the opportunity to talk about how the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic had on the festival's plans and what they have done since the return of the festival.
It was not easy. We had our event in 2019, was the first new Charlotte Shout. And then we all know what happened in 2020, so we had to postpone. Again in 21, we thought we were going to be able to do it. And then, a variant took over and it blew up. And so finally we set our sights on spring of 22, and, thank you, all powers that made it happen, but we were finally able to make it happen. And we were quite successful with it, right? It was, a lot of things went our way. I mean, it was the first, really big festival to happen in Charlotte after the pandemic peaks, I guess I would say. Well, I never want to say the pandemic is over, because obviously COVID still exists, but just that time when we were so careful and being so, things were so bad. So it was the first one, and so that was very nice. Excuse me. But we also, we sort of settled into a really cool spot of the calendar, right there, kind of in between, where we're coming out of winter, if there's such a thing anymore in Charlotte after this last year, going into springtime. We have spring break, Easter, all of that kind of falls within that period of time. And we made it expansive, right? So it's a full 3 weekends of festivities. So it covers 2 work weeks, 3 weekends, and that helps us deliver so that everybody can see something. This past year, this last one that just happened, we're just now getting data in, and we can see that we drove great numbers to Uptown Charlotte, but we also all know that it rained a lot. So we created this 3 weekend event so that we could escape the weather and still have a great time.
I think you touched on this, how has the festival part been impactful to the city and to also local artists? How has that been impactful there?
Well, we pay everybody. First of all, it's very important to note that this is, we have a fairly decent budget, both public money and private money, which helps us to put this festival on. And I'm pleased to say that we've had this just in this 2023 event. we probably wrote more than 1,000 checks to artists and vendors, and everybody receives something for their work. At no time are we begging or asking somebody to do something just because it's going to be a great opportunity. We believe that these are small business owners. Every single one of these artists or musicians, or obviously the food purveyors all have, there are costs involved, and a lot of these folks, they really need incremental opportunities like this. There's also another step to it. It's not about the money 100%. It's really about the opportunity to be inspired and to aspire to great things. And that's something that's important to me as the executive producer, is that we are putting the opportunity forward so that artists and creatives, let's just say creatives as a whole, have that chance to show what they can do, and to also see what others are doing, therefore aspiring to greater things. One great example is our Easter eggs on parade, which was a little bit of a play on the bunnies that came in 2019. And obviously Easter, and everybody knows you hunt for the eggs, so we thought, well, what if we played off of that? So we have these beautiful 4-foot tall Easter eggs that are fiberglass, and we have a dozen of those, and we went and found we did a call to artists, and we got a dozen artists that took them and designed them. That was last year. This year we added an extra egg just for fun, so we have a baker's dozen now with 13. We did a call to artists. We had I don't know, 60 approximately artists vying for those 13 positions. And the work that was done compared to last year is just another step. And don't get me wrong, last year was absolutely amazing. But that's what I'm saying when I tell you get to aspire to bigger things. So artists get to see, I love that egg that artist did, but I think I can do something really special too. And so it happened. And I anticipate that we're going to see more of that as we continue.
And thank you to Mr. Robert Krumbine for taking the time to talk about the amazing Charlotte Shout Festival, and looking forward to the events in 2024. And a big thank you to all of you listeners taking the time out of your day, or whenever you're listening to the podcast, for taking this journey alongside with me on VHC. Please feel free to share and spread the word about the podcast. And we're on Spotify as well as Buzzsprout. And you can reach out to me via email, kevwash, that's lowercase, kevwash, KEVWASH 46 at yahoo.com. And we now have a website. It's kevwash, lowercase, KEVWASH 46.wixsite, wixsite.com/VHCP. You can also reach out to me on the socials at Twitter at KevinWash08, or you can reach out to me on Instagram at Kevin_Washington_887. And you can follow me for the latest on the podcast. And again, this is your host, Kevin Washington. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. And in the next episode, we're going to get a little justice for the genre of disco. Yeah, you heard it right. And we'll explore the history and all of that in between on the next episode. Peace.